This is Nishtha from Scholar Strategy, and today I have a very special guest, Aastha Chawla, and we are going to talk about what does it take, what kind of profile and efforts does it take to crack top MS in operation research or analytics kind of programs in US. So keep watching.
Let's start with your background so that people have an understanding of your profile. So which college did you graduate from?
So I graduated from NIT Kurukshetra back in 2019, and I
Okay, and
did
what
Bachelor
was
of
your, yeah,
Technology. Yeah.
uh, what branch did you go for?
I went for Production and Industrial Engineering, so BTech in that.
BTech in, okay. And how much was your GPA?
It was 9.2.
So super high. Okay. And how much was your GRE?
GRE was 316. So it was like I had 164 in quant and 152 in verbal. So
Did you ever feel like jittery about your GRE?
I did, but especially in this fall, a lot of conversation was going around whether universities will consider GRE or not. But I preferred
Hmm.
giving my score because I felt rest of my profile was quite stronger as compared to the GRE score. So I didn't keep that as a factor to hold me back from trying to apply to the ambitious college. So I did do that, and I think QT Austin was one of the college that I was not expecting because it takes into consideration quite high GRE. So that
Right.
worked in my favor. Yeah.
That's awesome. So that's also a good takeaway for people that sometimes don't be too strict about the average profile, the average scores and all. If overall you think you have a good profile, then one or two parameters here or there can be excused. So that's good to know. And how much work experience did you have, Astha?
So by the time I applied, it was 2 years. So now right now it's 2.5 years.
Okay. And which company, if I may ask?
American Express.
Okay. And was your role relevant to analytics?
Yes. So I am I was a programmer analyst at that time when I applied, and that was exactly the domain that I was targeting. So again, back to the point that rest of the profile was in sync. Just the GRE score was something I was scared about. So yeah.
Right, right. Okay. Makes sense. So, okay, let's move on to the second part that what kind of preparation had you done before the application? How had you done the profile building? Any tips there?
I was supposed to go last year, but due to COVID, I had to postpone my plans, and I kind of started that research back when I was in a college. I didn't even graduate, and then the plan was after I graduate, I'll start cracking and studying for GRE. Once I start that in August or so, I would have my result by December, or at least I should have my result by March, to per se, even if I have to repeat it. So that was the thought behind it, that prepare for GRE, like starting from August till December, give it in January or maybe Feb if you have to repeat it. So keep that buffer of 2 months. But by April, I have to be done with my scores. And post that, I contacted you. I think I started contacting you back in February when I was still
Yeah.
giving my GRE. So I kind of looked into the other options as well in parallel, that once I'm done with the GRE, how do I start and start getting into the essay writing and SOP thing. So that is where you kind of helped me a lot, that how should I shape my thoughts, especially in terms of writing the SOP. So I was quite blank at that time, that where do I start from. So all credit goes to you in terms of shaping up the thoughts that I had. That is something I would like to maybe pass it on to you, that SOP is something which we started with Scholar Strategy, and then moving on, we were done with the LORs as well, and I wrapped it up quite early, so I could somewhat do it in 2 months. So I had my around final version of SOP also in August. By that time, I had all the documents prepared, I had the LOR, and post that, most of my work was done. I only had to start applying. So
Hmm.
I started that work in September. I also reached out to my professors for the LORs quite early. So that
Hmm.
was the whole process. Yeah.
That's nice. I do remember, and that's really sweet of you to give me credit. But honestly, a lot of it depends on the applicant. You guys have to put in the work. So definitely whole credit to you. And you are one of the, I think, in my decade of experience, I would say you are one of those people who did everything very proactively. So massive kudos to you, because I think that prevents you from getting into any sort of anxiety state, right? Because you are always ahead of the time, you know what to expect and you can go for it. So massive props to you on that. When did you apply to these schools? For example, UT Austin or Georgia Tech, which month would that be?
I started applying in September. I thought maybe it was too early for me to apply, but then the deadline was till December 1st. So I thought
Right.
I should I should send out all of my admits by November. That was a strict timeline I had for myself. But I
Mhm.
started applying in my ambitious college in October, September. I wrapped it up
Okay.
by then. Yeah.
Okay. So definitely, like soon after the applications opened, you applied in that lot. And when did you hear back from UT Austin and then Georgia Tech?
So UT Austin, I heard back in February. It was like the like mid of Feb. Even though I applied quite early, but there was a huge gap. And then Georgia Tech,
Yeah.
I heard quite recently. So it was first week of March, I would say.
Okay. So yes, sometimes people have this question that, like, if you apply early, does it mean that you hear it early as well? It all depends on what kind of deadline is it. Is it rolling deadline or not? And I've also seen that, like, maybe it does not mean that you will hear right away, but I do think that they look at the applications in the order in which they receive it. So I am also a big proponent of, like, applying in time. Let's talk about SOP, right? And you said that, like, everyone starts in that state, right? I'm clueless, it's a blank sheet of paper and all. But any tips, any advice to candidates for especially analytics oriented SOP? Like, what kind of things did you highlight in your SOP?
So I think a challenge for me was to relate my, like my background in terms of engineering with analytics, because I kind of engineered in production and industrial engineering, which does not touches upon
Right.
much into analytics, but it's a very flexible program. So for me, the challenge was to build that story and to connect these two things. That why am I from a background of mechanical and then I'm jumping into analytics? So that was something which I justified using my research papers, my other projects that I did, and the 2.5 years of work experience I had. I kind of made a pointer that, I created that flow, that, how, my work that I did in my engineering helped me shape up better or do better in my work or professional journey. So that is how I created that flow. And, really a great help came from you as well, in terms of the thought process should be right. And a very like, I really appreciate this thing that you kind of made me do it. It was not, a lot of people do that they get a written SOP from someplace else. I think it's very important to write your SOP by yourself. Do not indulge into copying the text from the other SOPs. It's very important to pen down the thoughts that you have. Maybe there will be grammatical errors. It might not make sense in the first or second draft, but eventually it will be your story, and you'll that will help you shape it better. So that was the thought I had, and it helped me out.
Right. So it's about, like, you have to make sense of why are you the person applying to this program, and you have to kind of convince the admission committee that your profile will be a good suit for the program. You're clear on your goals and all those things. How long did you take to like finalize your SOP? How long did you spend on it?
So I had a lot of time, to be honest. I
Right.
was, I kept two months. Like, it for me took 2 months to, when I started from creating draft zero up until finalizing my draft. But then also, like, I was kind of, skeptical about it. So I went back, did some revisions. But yeah, in 2 months it was all done. And I think
Right.
I took a lot of time. People wrap
Yeah.
up their SOPs in 4 weeks and maybe 2 weeks. So I took a lot of time.
Yeah. What was the most challenging bit about the SOP for you?
I think thinking around the lines that, how will admission committee think about it? Will it
Yeah.
create a positive impact? I had a lot of questions while I was writing it down, because I was writing it from a different intent. But how will the admissions committee, kind of take it in which way? So that was a question I had throughout, and like, that is something, where you helped me out by making me understand that it's very important to keep your thoughts clear.
LORs, I know somebody else is writing it. But who are the three people that you took LORs from? What mix did you go for between academic and professional?
Okay, so for me, it was two academic and one professional, and reason being because like I had done a lot of projects. I had around three research papers which were all academic. So I wanted to
Hmm.
quantify that in the same way and justify it in a way that my professors were backing me up, and I was working with them. It was very honest and candid feedback which they also had. So I kind of had a conversation with them, and they were always in contact with me. I did not lose that contact with. And a good thing which happened with me was that while I was in contact with a professor who was guiding me on a project, he was a professor at that time, but by the time I graduated and he had to write the LOR, he became the HOD of that department, of the whole department.
Okay.
And
Hmm.
yeah, that really helped. So, and the other professor was also he helped me did my final year project. So he was very closely working with me, and both of the professors were quite willing to give me the LOR. It was not something that I had to reach back or follow ups multiple times. So all of my LOR work was also done within 15 days, which is quite hard to believe because it was
That's
10
amazing.
universities.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's a big
But I
headache for people, like
it is, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So would you say that having that good relationship with the person itself in the first place is a key thing that you can do?
Yes, definitely. And I think for me, it really helped because, in November, like, especially in India, it's the time of Diwali, and
Yeah,
there are a lot of occasions that you have.
yeah.
And I thought that, till November, I have to apply everywhere, and only my LOR was pending. And I kind of, requested to my professors if they can do it before November, although they knew that, the deadline is in December. Why does she want to apply so early? So they were quite supportive in terms of even doing that for me within a week's time. So that really helped because it helped me even in terms of not stressing out, because I knew that
Yeah,
after the Diwali break I'll be all done, because I had
right.
planned things accordingly. So that really helps the
Any other tip, like how do
definitely.
we make sure that the LORs are strong? That
I dropped them an email that, I kept them in loop. I was in, at least I had one call, like, monthly with each of my professor. I was updating them of the work that I was doing, that, if I got my GRE score, I was telling them and going back, so that I built that relationship with time. And even after that, I kind of reminded them. So I drafted an email for each of my professor. I divided all of the skills that, I wanted to highlight it into three different portions, and I
hmm,
only based on my projects and which professor should focus on which part, I kind of told them that maybe focus more on these areas, and they helped structure the LOR in the same format, because they knew that these are the positive aspects of the person, and and the student wants you to highlight that, and they were very supportive in that way.
why MS in analytics? Like what other programs were you considering? And I think a lot of people get confused also between analytics, data science, MIS, those kind of things. So do you want to share your thoughts there?
Yeah, sure. So I also had this confusion back when I was, already in college. So I started thinking about MS at that time, and I already knew that, maybe I want to go into research, maybe I want to go with MBA. But then these are the questions I used to ask myself, and I got the answers to them with time. So as I was graduating, I like, my sister was into analytics. She's already, in that field. So she kind of kept telling me about it. But by that time, I did my internship in mechanical. I was all set to go ahead and do MS in like automobiles, or maybe, go ahead with the mechanical journey. That was a thought I had back in college. But then when I went in IIT Kanpur, I had a lot of exposure. Especially that internship made me realize that, mechanical is something which doesn't have a lot of scope as compared to data science when it comes to a research, especially MS. That was the first discovery I made. But the second discovery I made in IT was that once I started studying more about 3D printing, and I did those kind of projects, and then I went into machine learning. So I touched on machine learning, and I got to know about big data. That was the triggering point for me to realize that how much importance analytics hold in today's industry, and how important it is currently, especially in the last decade. We have been hearing a lot of buzz about data analytics. So I kind of read about it. I went back to a lot of people who are already there in the industries, and I talked to them, and I started looking out for internship or job opportunities. And I started doing some projects just in order to enhance my skills. Like I said that I was into mechanical, I had to grab those skills in order to go into
Yeah.
another field. So yeah, I started from there. I started learning, I started developing my skills. And that is when when I did those projects, that is when I realized that it's a very interesting job, and it's much better than than the work that I was thinking to develop my career into. And that was a switch point for me. Then I went into American Express, and then I was very sure about it, that this is what I want to go ahead with. And that kind of shaped my thoughts together. And when I was ready that okay, this is where I have to proceed with, then I started applying, or giving my exams for MS, maybe that GRE and TOEFL. Yeah.
Right. And you applied to analytics programs. Did you apply to, I believe you applied to data science also, right?
I kept it very open in terms of, so in UT Austin, I applied to operations research, which
Hmm.
has a touch of data science into it, or analytics. But then it's all, it also depends on the student and their interest, that which specialization do they want to get with OR. So for
Right.
me, since UT Austin has MSBA, which gets into MBA, which is like a whole different degree, which does not focus much on the
Yeah.
technical aspect of
Yeah.
analytics. So I wanted to go into analytics or statistics or ML side of things. So I thought
Hmm.
OR is a quite good department in that sense. So I did a lot of research basis on what I wanted versus what where I can get it. So for
Right.
example, I applied in MIMS program, which is at UC Berkeley, which is an
Yeah.
information and data science
Yeah.
program. So that aligned less with my interest. But then I kept it very open. Like I applied in MSDS as well, which is masters in data science at Columbia University. So I kept it open, so that after I get my admit, then I'll let's say if I get it only from list of options A, then I can choose
Yeah.
accordingly. So it made it very easy for me that way. Yeah.
Any more tips? Like you have given the general tips, obviously. Any specific thing about UT Austin, Georgia Tech? Like when you were writing the SOP for these programs, did you highlight anything particular? Any extra thing people can do to crack these like top ranked universities?
Yeah, I think so. Georgia Tech was my, dream university when I started doing, when I had the idea about MS. So, specifically for, 2, 3 universities which I had at my top list. So I contacted people who are into admissions committee. So they basically conduct some events throughout the year to tell you more about the program. And I kind of connected with them. I contacted the graduate coordinators that every department has. So I think I reached out to them, went back and told them about my interest, and I am soon going to apply into so and so program. And I also started building our network in terms of that, which program made more sense for me. So they also kind of helped me reach out to the right people. And that also helped me understand the people, or the culture of the program better. So for UC Berkeley, they have a lot of events throughout the year. So they have an info camp that they organize, which is like a hackathon. So I kind of joined that, and I had something to add in my SOP, that to show that additional interest, that I have been participating in the events that your school or
Okay.
your
Hmm.
university organized. Yeah. So I did a lot of that.
Any parting advice to the applicants? What do you think? Have you done really well? What do you think you could have done differently?
I think I have done really well in terms of the timelines. So I made a very strict timelines, and I followed them. I managed things quite early, and I
Yeah.
was, and I think that really helped throughout the process. And one thing I didn't do well was the preparation for my GRE exam. I stressed way too much about it. I was, worrying too much about the low GRE score that I had, and I think I made a big I was worrying a lot more about it than I should have. So I think having
Okay.
one or two, yeah, having that, I think it's fine. If you have some low factors in the
Right.
overall profile, it's fine. It's okay.
So instead of worrying about what's not in your control, focus on what is in your control, which is your SOP, which is your LORs and school selection and all. And that way is like maximize the chances.
I think I really want to thank you for all the help
Oh,
that you
thank
have
you.
been giving me. But I think, yeah, because throughout the journey, the clarity of thoughts that I have right now is somewhere that you gave us throughout the process, and I can't imagine that where would I have been if I have not started the process through you. So kudos to you and thanks a lot for all the help that you've
No,
been
thank you
giving
so
us.
much. You would still be here because you are a very hard worker, and it was absolute pleasure working with you. So thank you so much for choosing to work with us. Cool. So, guys, that was lovely, Astha, and she has given a lot of tips. And more than that, like, a good sign that you can actually crack whatever you want to crack. Just have a good plan and stick with it. And if you want to connect with Astha, good to connect with you on LinkedIn, Astha.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah.
Right, and reach out to her if you're interested in these OR analytics and all those kind of programs. And of course, we have more description about Scholar Strategy in the description section below. So stay tuned, and we will see you next time. Thank you so much, Astha.